Sit back, relax, and let's have a chapter chat. I'm your host, Jessica Foster, and I'm excited to talk to author Corinne Sullivan today. She has a thriller that's out now, Yours Always. And Corinne, it's so great to talk with you today.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, we have to talk about this because it is quite the thriller. This is not a genre that I've read a lot of, but I've enjoyed it. It kept me on the edge of my seat.
That's what I was going for, so that's great to hear.
Yes. Let's do a little synopsis for our listeners about Yours Always.
So, Yours Always follows a dating app engineer named Talia. She reconnects with an old flame named Townsend, only to realize that he is the prime suspect in the disappearance of a woman named Amanda, who is the woman who broke him and Talia up in the first place. Then other characters include Amanda's sister Caitlin, who's just about the only person who thinks something may have happened to Amanda and that she's in trouble. And then there's Talia's best friend Mira. They work together, and she does not trust Townsend. Will do just about anything to keep them from getting back together.
And even the cover of this novel, you can tell that, this is going to have some substance to it. This is going to be a thriller.
We chose this playful title, Yours Always. It sounds like a romance. The story almost gives itself to a romance, and yet it has this creeping unease with that font, with the eyes. It really delivered. I was very happy when I saw this cover.
And how did you come up with the premise of this book?
So I was watching this Netflix true crime documentary called Lover, Stalker, Killer. It follows a man who joins a dating app, connects with two different women, and then it turns into this very twisty love triangle. And watching it, I thought this would make such a good book. So I just decided to give it a try and see what happened.
And you enlisted the help of some of your family members for help with this book and some of the tech references. Let's talk a little bit about that.
I did. So as we experienced some issues just getting on this call, I am not techie. I have a lot of trouble with tech, but my sister is a woman in STEM. So I talked to her a lot about Talia's job, helping develop that, what Talia does. My sister, she's a senior director of interaction design. So she works a lot with AI. And I'm someone who's very skeptical of it. She's someone who thinks that it has a lot of potential to help people, as well as long as marginalized groups are represented by it. So she kind of opened my eyes to this whole different world of AI and what can be done with it.
You know, AI, I see the benefits of it, but it can be a bit of a scary concept sometimes, can't it?
Yes, yes, it can. It used to be that I could very easily tell it was only boomers who would get confusion over an AI image. And now I'm scratching my head saying, I don't know what to believe anymore.
Well, it's so realistic. That's why I think, and of course I am a journalist, so I know that I'm a little biased when it comes to this, but that's why I think that true journalism has so much of a place in our world right now, and it is so important to preserve that.
Yes, it's the last vestige of truth, I feel like.
Right. And you have an interesting career. Not only are you an author, but you're also the senior news editor at Cosmopolitan. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so speaking of AI and journalism, my job every day is to figure out how to fight the AI overview that pops up on the top of Google now, figuring out how can we reach readers, what can we offer that AI cannot. And so I think of my job a lot as storytelling, but I'm trying to find the most compelling headline, the parts of the story that a computer can't deliver. I try to have my voice be a part of the story. It's always trying to figure out how to get eyeballs on the page and how to beat out all the rest of the noise.
And that's becoming more and more of a challenge.
Yes, it is.
And you do a lot with celebrity news. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that our listeners would find that interesting.
It used to be that A-listers, classic movie stars, music stars, they were our bread and butter. But more and more, our readers are interested in reality TV stars. I think a lot of that is because of the access they offer. They don't go through the typical media training. They're not there to promote a project and keep their personal life out of the limelight. Their product is themselves. They're very willing to talk about their personal lives. They're on their Instagram stories, TikToks. They're providing exposure outside of where we see them on our screens, our TV screens, rather.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept, and I guess I didn't really think of it that way, but that's why people are so intrigued by it.
Yeah, just that unlimited access to what is going on behind the scenes. People like to be invited in. I know that's why I like reality TV.
True, true. People sometimes say that it's a train wreck, right? And they can't look away.
Exactly. It, it's that once I look at my own very classic husband, two kids, kind of boring domesticity that I enjoy, but it's nice to kind of look outside and see these very different lives and kind of live vicariously through them. Not that it's necessarily something that I would want, but it's fun. It's a fun indulgence.
And how is that career compared to being an author of a novel?
I do find a lot of similarities between writing news and writing fiction. Again, just trying to find the best angle, the most compelling way in to find my audience. But with fiction, obviously, I get a lot more freedom. I don't have to worry about, I still worry about offending. I'm always worried about offending, but I get a lot more freedom to play. I get to create these worlds. And even when I use real life settings, I usually find a way to fictionalize things to give me more freedom to play. Like the building that Townsend lives in is based off a real building, but I fictionalized it so that I would have some more creative freedom with how the layout works and everything. It's fun to create these worlds.
Is it sometimes hard to get away, though, from writing things that can't be fictionalized to saying, oh, I have some creative liberties here?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have to have a very clear separation between my journalist life and my author life and remember where the rules are. Like my novel, which was very loosely based off a true story, I tried not to do too much research outside of watching that documentary because I don't want my story to be influenced by real life events. That's a real tragedy that really affected people. And with my novel, I seek to entertain, not to make light of tragedy.
Yes, I can see that. What big challenge did you run into when you were writing Yours Always?
The biggest challenge, aside from helping it develop Talia's job and working with my sister for that, was probably the legal aspect. My husband's a lawyer. He used to work for the SEC. Now he works as an AUSA. And so he helped me a lot with the legal aspects of things because it's nice to have those experts in your life you can tap when you are trying to do research.
You talk about having a husband and children. Did they influence your writing at all?
I try not to let them. I don't want them to be characters. I like people always ask me like, okay, who's your husband supposed to be? But he doesn't appear in my writing. My kids don't appear in my writing because I want them to be in this separate world that's just mine.
And how do you find time? Because I know that as a senior news editor, and then you have this, how do you balance it all?
It's tough. It's tough. But I really just compartmentalize. I have my day job. When I'm at my job, I'm very much at my job. And then when I pick up my kids from daycare, those couple of hours are very precious to me. I'm with them. And then as soon as they go to bed, that's my time. That's when I can read and write and explore this creative side. And I feel like I get a lot done in that time because I know my time is limited and precious. I don't think I would be as productive, honestly, if I didn't have a day job.
I've heard people say that before. Busy people get more done.
Yes. Yes, because you have that limited time. So I sit down with a game plan, like, okay, we are writing chapter 13 tonight. Here's what we're going to do. I have it all laid out.
And how long does it take you to write a chapter?
It depends. It depends on the material that I'm going to be tackling. Last night, for instance, I'm working on a new novel and I was having a very tough time with the opening to this chapter. I probably spent 2 hours writing 200 words. It really just depends on what I'm tackling and what kind of night I'm having, where my head is at.
And you've had another novel that was also released. So this is your second published novel, correct?
Correct. So my first novel came out in 2018 called Indecent, and it was very different from this one. It's a work of literary fiction, and it explores a woman who works at an all-boys boarding school, only to find herself becoming very deeply obsessed with one of her students. So it's more of a character exploration. It's twisty in the same sort of way, but much darker and much more interior.
And how is it now, not being a debut author, but having a little more experience? Has this publication been a little different for you?
You think that it would be less nerve-wracking, but it's not. Especially 8 years have passed since I published my debut, and so the publishing landscape is very different. Book talk was not really a thing 8 years ago. Instagram wasn't as big as it is now as far as a tool for authors to market themselves. And so I really feel like I'm learning all over again how to enter this world. It's refreshing that there are so many avenues for authors to be able to find audiences, and for people who may not have a big publishing house behind them pushing them, that they can get their voices heard. But it's also very intimidating to enter.
Oh, I'm sure. And you really have to brush up on all of your social media skills too, don't you?
Yes. And I consider myself a pretty online person. It's very difficult to market yourself. It's very humbling.
I experience that on the news too, because people never cease to amaze me with some of the things that they feel emboldened to say sometimes. And so you grow a thick skin quickly.
I realized that with my debut. I started reading all the Goodreads and Amazon reviews and quickly realized, you know what? I don't think I want to know. I don't think I want to see this.
Right. Yeah. Everyone has an opinion, and that's fine. And that's what makes the world go round. So, as far as what's next for you, you're already working on another book. Any other big plans in the works?
I really am just taking it novel by novel at this point. My dream, where I had this big gap in publication, I wrote 3 novels in that time that I was unable to publish before finally segueing to this new genre. I decided, you know what, I'm going to give thrillers a try. And I had more fun writing this last novel than I have in a long time. And so I'm just going to try and continue pursuing this thriller space and exploring it.
And what were the novels that you wrote that you couldn't get published?
There was a novel, they were all literary fiction.
Okay.
Like one was a woman in grad school, like exploring her sexuality. Like they were all just kind of quiet, weirdo books that I enjoyed writing, but just they were not finding the audience they needed. Because as the space grows more crowded, as attention is diverted to other mediums, I realized that books have to be a little bit louder now. There can still be the quiet, thoughtful books, but what is getting attention, I find, is the books that grab you from page one.
And your book does grab you from page one, because the very first page, someone's waking up and you realize they're in a hospital.
Yep, I knew I wanted that big opening that has you questioning, who is this person? How did they end up here? I love a flash forward. I think it's a fun device.
And when you were putting this out for submission, what was some of the feedback that you were getting?
It was very different feedback than I'd received for those shelved novels, where a lot of people would say, you know, the writing was nice, but I didn't connect with the story, or I didn't connect with the characters. This time around, people were connecting with the story, even if maybe the characters, they weren't all connecting with it. The story was something they could see themselves getting behind, was the difference.
And how long did it take you to write yours always?
I'd say just about a year altogether. Spent a couple months drafting it, trying to figure out the whole story, which is different. Writing those works of literary fiction, I was not really a drafter. I would go in and just kind of hope for the best, just go on a journey along with my characters. But with this thriller, I really wanted to carefully piece it out to make sure I was planting seeds in the right places. And the following year, I was a couple of chapters away from finishing, and I was weeks out from having my second daughter. And I kept telling my friends, like, this kid better stay in there. I've got work to do. I really want to finish this draft. And obviously she didn't. She came 5 weeks early.
Right.
And so I had to take a little break and return to the drafting once I'd gotten out of the postpartum fog.
And I'm sure that was difficult because being a new mom is not easy.
No, it was nice in that I was on maternity leave and had all this time at home. But as anyone who's been a new parent knows, parental leave is not a vacation by any means.
No.
There's a lot of downtime, and yet you're never been more tired in your life.
Yes, this is true. This is true. And as far as writing for Cosmo, we had talked about how it's a very different style. And we know that the publishing landscape has changed a lot over the years. And you experienced that when you were publishing your latest novel. Has that magazine space changed a lot as well?
A lot. A lot. We still have our print will always be the legacy of the brand. Print is very precious to us. We love our print magazine. But so many eyeballs have moved to the digital space. And instead of these long form essays that we used to pride ourselves on, it's these very short, clicky pieces that are now getting attention because, again, people are not staying on the page as long as they used to. And so I'm often writing a lot of short, quick, clicky stories rather than long form pieces.
Now, what do you think the future is for news, for journalism?
I would like to say that there will be a return to long form journalism, but I don't know if that's true. I think it's short, bitsy stories are the way of the future. And I'd like to think that one day we can return to, not to say I still think that this is real journalism, but I'd like to return to the longer, more thoughtful pieces that take months of investigating rather than 30 minutes to write up. But that requires viewers and readers to want to spend their time reading those stories.
Right. I know. I was actually talking to a journalist who likes to do a lot of long form pieces recently. And he was saying that his producers keep telling him, oh, this is too long. This is too long. This is too long. He said, but what I'm realizing when I place a long form piece on TikTok, the younger viewers are engaging with it and they're watching it through because he's looking at the analytics. And he said, that gives me some hope.
Yeah, so just trying to play with a different platform, or you'll see people post long form videos that they break into 10 different parts and people are actually following along on the journey. It's like making these longer stories into digestible pieces is a way to convey them. That's why I try to keep chapters short. So people are just feeling this momentum going forward.
And I realize I like short chapters too when I'm reading books. And I think it's just kind of what we're getting used to as a society.
Yes. Like when you are trying to read before bed and you're paging through the chapter and see you have 20 pages left, you say, forget it. But if you can finish 3 or 4 chapters in one sitting, you feel accomplished. You feel like you've read more than you would have if it were just one long chapter.
Exactly. What are you hoping that your readers get out of yours always?
I want them to be entertained above all, of course. I don't think that there's any big moral to the story, but I want them to come away with a sense that connection matters. That, you see Caitlin talking to her AI therapist, and clearly she's not getting what she could get out of it with a human, with someone who can really respond to her. And you see people forging these connections through dating apps that maybe are missing something, that are missing some truth and honesty. I want to convey with this that human connection does matter and that we haven't lost that.
I love that message. And I've loved talking with you today. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And yours always, it is twisty, it's quite a thriller, and it's out now. You've been listening to Chapter Chat. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Happy reading.